What? Too deaf to follow basic instructions? The gate agent sneered loud enough to turn heads, not knowing or maybe not caring that the kid she was yelling at was deaf. Just some young black teen not moving fast enough in her eyes, and that was all the excuse she needed to humiliate him right there in the terminal. But what she didn't realize was who this boy was, and even more, who his father was. Minutes later, the slap she delivered echoed through the airport, and, just like that, her whole world came crashing down. This isn't some petty story about arrogance. It's about karma landing in first class. The hum of JFK Airport's Terminal 4 was that familiar, chaotic soundtrack: suitcase wheels scraping polished floors, the constant beep of baggage carts, muffled announcements calling travelers to distant places. For 16-year-old Jalen Amir, all that noise was a vibration he felt under his feet more than a sound. The world was silent for him, a film without words, and he'd gotten really good at reading the unspoken faces, emotions, the small signals most people miss. He sat hunched over his phone, thumbs flying, texting his best friend about the airport food court's ridiculous variety. A ghost of a smile flickered as he adjusted the black beanie pulled low on his head. Jalen was lanky, all angles and long limbs that looked like they'd outgrown him. His rich mahogany skin absorbed the harsh fluorescent light, making him seem almost carved from wood. Across the waiting area, his father, Christopher Amir, watched with quiet pride. Christopher moved with calm, effortless grace, completely at odds with the frenetic energy around them. In his tailored gray suit, he looked like any other business traveler to a casual glance. But Christopher wasn't just anyone. He'd built Aerolux Premier, the very airline they were about to board, from scratch. Starting with 2 leased planes and a dream, now a major player known for luxury and impeccable service. A world of private jets and billion-dollar deals he navigated with quiet confidence. Yet today, he'd chosen to fly commercial. A lesson for Jalento: never forget where he came from, no matter how high he climbed. So here they were, surrounded by the tired, the excited, the anxious, a mix of humanity in motion. Jalen, lost in his phone, didn't notice the gate agent who had just taken her post behind the counter. Karen Ollie, late 40s, blonde hair sculpted into a wind tunnel helmet, a permanent scowl that could curdle milk. She'd been a gate agent for 22 years, and it showed weariness, impatience, and a suspicious eye for trouble. To Karen, passengers weren't people. They were problems: oversized carry-ons, expired documents, and endless stupidity. She saw Jalen and immediately labeled him another disrespectful teenager, earbuds blasting whatever music kids were into nowadays. Christopher caught the sour look Karen gave his son. He'd met plenty like her, petty tyrants clinging to their small authority as if it was a throne. He kept an eye on her, but didn't say much. When he gently tapped Jalen's shoulder and signed, "Everything okay?" Jalen nodded quickly, texting back about the new Spider-Man trailer with his friend Marcus. Christopher smiled, signing back, telling the red suit's a classic. Then he spoke aloud, reminding Jalen to keep his phone charged for the flight. The moment was ordinary, but from Karen's perspective, it was a black man talking down to a disrespectful kid who ignored him. Her irritation morphed into something darker. When boarding began, Christopher guided Jalen to pre-board, a privilege for passengers needing extra time. They patiently waited behind a young mother struggling with her stroller, but Karen's rigid mind saw 2 people trying to game the system. Rules were sacred to her, and pre-boarding wasn't a free-for-all. When it was their turn, Christopher handed over boarding passes with a polite "good morning." Karen snatched them, scanning the names Christopher Amir and Jalen Amir. Then her voice dripped with condescension. "Pre-boarding is for those who need extra help. Does he have a problem?" Christopher's calm voice cut through. "My son is deaf. We pre-board to make sure he's settled before the rush." Karen sneered, disbelief dripping from her words. "Deaf, huh? He looks fine to me. Probably just another teenager with earbuds blasting rap." That was the spark that set Christopher's composure ablaze. "He's not wearing earbuds. He's been profoundly deaf since he was 3. Karen laughed, a cold, brittle sound. Everyone's got a story. Then she turned fully on Jalen. Raising her voice as if shouting would break through the silence she refused to acknowledge. You, take off your headphones and pay attention. Jalen, feeling the sharp vibrations of her words, turned his head confused. Signing quickly, what's wrong? What is she saying? Christopher tried to respond, but Karen's frustration exploded. The line was backing up, people staring, her authority challenged by a silent teenager. And then, shockingly, she leaned over the counter and slapped Jalen across the face. The crack echoed through the terminal, turning the bustling scene into stunned silence. Jalen stumbled, hand to cheek, pain and humiliation washing over him like a tidal wave. Tears welled up as the cruel public violence registered. Christopher froze, time slowing to focus on his son's tear-streaked face and the red mark blooming on his dark skin. The dam holding back years of restraint shattered. A cold, terrifying fury surged through him, the primal rage of a father whose child had been harmed. He stepped forward, radiating menace that made Karen finally feel fear. You just made the biggest mistake of your life, Christopher growled, voice low and dangerous. Karen scoffed, emboldened by the crowd's silence. Oh yeah? Who are you going to call? Your manager? I've been here 22 years. I'm not going anywhere. Christopher's hand moved slowly, pulling out a sleek phone, tapping it a few times before holding it up, thumb hovering over a contact labeled simply. Marcus Thorne, CEO, Aerolux Group. No, he said ice cold. I'm not calling you manager. I'm firing you. Your manager. And then I'm calling the CEO myself, the man I have on speed dial. And I'm telling him what you did to my son. The room gasped like a sonic boom. Karen's smug mask crumbled, her face drained, terror replacing arrogance as she realized the truth. This mild-mannered man was no ordinary passenger. He owned the airline, the kingdom she had just trashed with her slap. The silence was suffocating. Karen's heart pounded in her ears. Passengers whispered, recognizing the name. Denial was her first defense. You're lying, she stammered, desperate. I'm calling security. Go ahead, Christopher said, calm as a glacier. Call them all. Your terminal manager will be here in 90 seconds. Within moments, David Peterson, terminal operations manager, burst in pale, sweating, panicked. Ignoring Karen, he focused on Christopher. Sir, I'm so sorry. Is your son okay? Christopher's voice cut through, cold and commanding. No. Your employee assaulted my son in front of 100 witnesses. He's 16 and deaf. Peterson's face went white. Turning to Karen, fury mixed with disbelief. Karen, what did you do? Her weak excuse. He was disrespectful, barely registered. Christopher's voice was sharp as broken glass. You didn't know? You didn't know not to put your hands on a child? You only show decency when you think someone is important? He looked Peterson dead in the eye. Terminate her employment immediately and escort her off the premises. Security arrived, solid and silent. Karen's pleas were pitiful. I have a mortgage, kids in college. It was a mistake. Christopher's reply was merciless. 22 years doesn't give you a pass for assault. It makes it worse. As they led her away, a ripple of applause broke out. Videos were already going viral. But for Christopher, firing her was just the start. The public humiliation his son suffered demanded a deeper, more personal justice. Later, a new gate agent apologized profusely as they boarded into first class, the plushest seats for Jalen and his dad. Christopher quietly sent messages. His head of security was ordered to dig into Karen's background, find the best civil litigator. His PR chief was told to hold off on statements. He wanted to control the narrative personally. By the time their plane lifted off, the internet was a storm. Slapgate trended worldwide. News vans swarmed Karen's suburban home, where her life unraveled. Calls from shocked sons, neighbors turning away, protests outside her house. Her husband's plumbing business tanked under the weight of online backlash, and banks began foreclosure proceedings. 3 days later, a lawsuit was filed not by Christopher, but on behalf of Jalen. His lawyer, Benjamin Carter, declared on courthouse steps, This wasn't a mistake. It was hateful violence against a disabled child of color. We seek damages to ensure Miss Ollie never forgets. The $5 million suit threatened everything Karen and her family owned. Then came the real twist. Carter offered to drop the suit and settle debts if Karen accepted a 2-year public penance. Working full-time for the Amir Foundation's new campaign, Listen with Your Eyes, traveling the country sharing her story of ignorance and prejudice, learning ASL, and working with the deaf community she once scorned. The offer was a Machiavellian stroke of genius punishment wrapped as redemption, a relentless public shaming. Karen accepted, collapsing under the weight of it all. Her first press conference was raw. "I assaulted a child out of ignorance and prejudice," she admitted, voice cracking. "I'm here to atone." Jalen watched quietly from home, the shadow of that day still heavy on him. He was seeing a therapist beginning to heal. One day, at a tech event, Jalen surprised everyone by stepping on stage, signing directly to Karen. "I forgive you. Not for you, but for me. I'm taking my story back." He announced a scholarship program for deaf students turning his trauma into power. Karen's 2 years were brutal, traveling, speaking, learning ASL with fumbling fingers, enduring mockery but slowly gaining empathy through genuine connections with the deaf community. Her personal life, crumbled divorce, finalized by email, strained relations with her sons, but beneath the wreckage, something fragile grew: understanding. Meanwhile, Jalen blossomed into a confident leader, funding breakthrough technology, advocating for systemic change. Christopher shifted his foundation's focus from charity to real transformation, building a more just, accessible world. 5 years after that slap, at a gala, Jalen gave a powerful speech that didn't need words to tell his story. It was in his presence. There, serving champagne, was Karen, aged, humbled, a ghost of the woman who'd slapped him. Their eyes met. She signed quietly. "Your speech was beautiful. You're doing good work." Jalen nodded, signing back, "Thank you." "It's good to see you, Karen." "No angel. No pity." Just the quiet finality of circle closed. Karen walked away into the crowd, one more shadow among many. The slap wasn't just a moment of violence, it was the spark that forged 2 new legacies. One of transformation, one of redemption. So we think on true value. Was the karma Karen got justified or too harsh? Is this justice or just the power of privilege? Drop your thoughts below. Let's get this conversation going. If this story hit you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and stay tuned for more real-life dramas that make us think, question, and maybe even change.